Viva EFF, viva! Tata, EFF, tata! Awe Musho Mashodu, awe! Down with Sir Ramaphosa, down! Down with Helen Zille, down! Down with GNU, down! Forward to the EFF, forward! Kalaboa, Deputy President, Kalaboa, our officials, National Chairperson, DSG, TGSG, the provincial leaders who are here, the leadership of Free State under the Chairperson Couch, and all those sub-regional interim leadership corps that are here. Kele dumedi se kaofela, batho ba Free State and South Africa, ke dumedi se bonkgono ka mo tenteng. Ke re ke thaba haholo le le teng mona, ke ngwana wa lona ntle le lona, ha ona EFF. Brandford ke lehae la rona la EFF, Masilonyane ke lehae la rona la EFF, Majwe Masweu ke lehae la EFF. That's why when we are here, we feel at home. Comrades, ke tla fela ke kenya le sekgowa ka gore Deputy President o rile re tlo bua le batho ba Majwe Masweu le batho ba Free State, South Africa, Africa and the world. So ha re bolela le lefatshe, re swantse re fele re tsenya le language ya the colonialist, because we want the enemy to hear our stance on all issues, particularly Donald Trump, who wants to intimidate us. Today, we gathered on sacred ground on an important day in our nation's history. On this so-called Freedom Day, we are in a place of deep pain, resistance, and unbreakable courage, which was home of the mother of our revolution. We gather in Brandford, across the house where Mama Winnie, Nomzamo Madikizela Mandela, was banished, isolated, and stripped of her basic freedoms. The life of our icon and our hero, Mama Winnie Madikizela Mandela, changed forever in 1962 when her husband Nelson Mandela was arrested and sentenced for life imprisonment. From that moment, Mama Winnie became the face of anti-apartheid resistance within the country. She endured repeated burnings, harassment, solitary confinement, and arrest. In 1969, she was arrested under the Terrorist Act and held in solitary confinement for 491 days without trial. Comrade Mama Winnie was forcefully relocated to this place called Brandford by the apartheid regime, separated from her children and community, placed under constant surveillance. The regime hoped this isolation will break her. Instead, Brandford became a place of resistance. She used her home to organize and support the local community. She turned a punishment into power. She lived here in Brandford for nearly 9 years, from 1977 to 1986. During that time, despite being cut off from Johannesburg and the political mainstream, she continued her anti-apartheid work. Her house became a center of political activity and community upliftment. She provided food to the hungry, health services to the sick, and hope to the poor. She wrote, she organized, she resisted. It must be said without apology, if it were not for Winnie Mandela, the name Nelson Mandela might not have survived the 27 years of his imprisonment. She kept his name alive. She kept the struggle burning. She ensured that the world never forgot Robben Island. While the apartheid regime sought to isolate and silence him, it was Mama Winnie who gave him a voice from the prison cells of Robben Island. But the revolutionary stance came at a cost. She was betrayed not by the enemy, but by her own comrades. After 1990, When political prisoners were released and exiles returned, the leadership of the ANC began to shift. They embraced neoliberalism, negotiated compromises, and sidelined those who still carried the flame of radical change. Mama Winnie was amongst those discarded. She opposed the direction of the ANC policies, its retreat from nationalization, its betrayal of the Freedom Charter, its closeness to white capital, and its failure to deliver land and justice to the people. For this, she was isolated, vilified, and kept out of positions of power. She remained loyal to the people, but not to the betrayal of their dreams. At the time of her death in April 2018, Mama Winnie was still a revolutionary. She was a grandmother, a leader, a voice of conscience. She remained fearless, critical of the post-apartheid elite, and determined to speak for the poor and landless. Her funeral became a moment of reckoning when the people reclaimed her memory and reminded the world of she truly was. Fellow fighters, this place was called Brantford. It's a living symbol of the cruelty of apartheid and the courage of those who dared to defy it. Mama Winnie was not imprisoned by bars, but by a brutal regime that feared her life. Her life was a daily punishment inflicted for her refusal to submit, to break, or to betray the cause of liberation. We remember her not as they tried to define her in courtrooms, in commissions, in newspapers, but as she was, a revolutionary, a mother of the nation, a militant, and a fearless fighter of the revolution of our people. We remember the pain of her death, the distortion of her legacy, and the betrayal she suffered at the hands of the very movement she helped sustain in its dark days. The ANC turned its back on her, choosing cowardice over truth, compromise over conviction, and yet through all this, she stood tall. Today, on Freedom Day, we must ask, what did we become free from? And what remains that promise? Freedom did not come cheap. Freedom did not fall from the sky. It was fought from the bush, in the cells, in the streets, in the exile camps of Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Zambia, Angola, Namibia, and beyond. To understand what we became free from, we must understand how apartheid was built. Apartheid was a law that was aiming at destroying our people, not only physically, but emotionally as well. Apartheid was created because they wanted to isolate you from the economy of South Africa. Apartheid laws were passed so that you can have your own separate education, have your own population registration, and the group areas, and pass laws, and many others. Apartheid was policed by the security forces, funded by capital, and justified by distorted theology and racist signs. Comrades, we must not forget that it was apartheid that took the land from us. And when we say that today we are free, we must ask ourselves, where is the land that was taken from us? Apartheid created Bantu education and gave our parents inferior education. Today, when we say we are free, we must ask ourselves, where is quality free education that were promised before 1994? Comrades, what is freedom without justice? Why do you say we are free when those who killed our liberation icons are not held accountable? Today, those who killed Krisani, they say they can repeat it again tomorrow. What is freedom about that? Today, as we speak, Krisani has never received his justice. Where is the justice of Steve Biko, who was killed in isolation. He died alone, naked and chained in a cell in 1977. Yet there's never been justice for the killing of Steve Biko, yet you claim freedom. Where is the freedom for the children who were killed in 1976? Hector Peterson, 12-year-old child, was killed in Soweto. Many children were killed in Soweto. Today we don't have the names of those who killed them. Today we don't have the names of those who sanctioned for the killing of the children in 1976. Fighters, the Craddock 4, Matthew Gonyiwe, Fort Kalata, Sparrow Mkonto, and Sicelo Mtlauli. Till today, they have not received their freedom. 4 brave activists from the Eastern Cape were abducted, shot, tortured, and murdered by apartheid security forces in 1985. They were burned and mutilated bodies were dumped on a rural road. Till today, there's not been justice for the Craddock 4. Comrades, political freedom without economic freedom means nothing. Today, here in Free State, in Mangaung, our people are swimming in sewage, yet they claim to be free. Our people are unemployed in Free State, yet people say we must celebrate freedom. To call us to celebrate freedom, you mean we must celebrate unemployment. We must dance that our people are unemployed. We will never do that. For as long as our people are unemployed, there is no freedom in Free State. There is no freedom in Mangaung. There is no freedom in Masilonyane. Comrades, there is no reliable water here in Brantford. There is no electricity here in Bramford. Why must we celebrate freedom in darkness? What kind of freedom is this that we are called upon to celebrate in darkness without clean running water? Yet in towns where whites live, there is clean water and electricity. All of us are under the same municipality, but we don't receive the same services because we are black and they are white. Because we are black, they think we are inferior and we must receive inferior services. We must refuse to accept that and say we will never celebrate any freedom as long as there is no water running into our taps in each and every house, not on our streets. Fighters, no child must go to school where there is no flushing toilet. All schools must have flushing toilets. All schools must have learning material. No child must go to school and pay for school fees, because education is not a commodity but a constitutional right. No child must buy a uniform because education is a right. Why are prisoners given free uniform yet children are not given free uniform? Comrades, no child must be raped at school. Schools must be small heavens. When we are at work, when we are pursuing the economic opportunities, our children must be safe in the schools. No teacher must sleep with children. Any black teacher who sleeps with a black child is a coward, is a mpimpi. He wants to destroy the future of South Africa. Comrades, what freedom must we celebrate when many of our children stay in shacks, not knowing where their next meal is going to come from? We need to guarantee our children meal every day. They must have breakfast when they arrive at school. They must have break and they must have lunch before they go home. When they arrive at home, they must find their parents with sufficient child grant which will buy them supper. They must never sleep with empty stomachs. They must never learn with empty stomachs. We want our children to be looked after. We want free education because the best investment is in education. You can see in Velcom, there used to be mines. Those mines are finished. Those mines have expired. But your education will never expire. That's why we must invest in education, because you will take it to your grave without an expiry date. Comrades, Mama Winnie Mandela was tortured for us to be free, not for us to sleep with a councillor, for us to get a job like the ANC councillors are doing today. Mama Winnie in a grave, she's not at peace, because the movement has committed itself to the races she gave her life trying to defeat. How can Winnie Mandela sleep peacefully when she knows that her government is in bed with the enemy? The ANC is working with the DA that tried to kill Winnie Mandela, the DA that killed Chris Hani, the DA that killed Steve Biko, the DA that killed Robert Sobukwe. For as long as those people are not held accountable, the EFF will never go into bed with the enemy. We will rather remain isolated, will rather remain excluded, but will stand on the side of the people and will stand on the side where Winnie Mandela stood until death. Comrades, the most critical thing facing all of us as a nation today is that South Africa does not have a budget. Nowhere in the history of the world has a country been able to operate without a budget. In other countries, the crisis we are in would have led to an early elections, because without a budget, there is no government. The day the ANC passed a budget illegally, that is the day this government has collapsed. Without a budget, there can be no money to fight crime and gender-based violence. So the women and children of South Africa are in danger because there is no budget. Without a budget, there can be no allocation of money to schools for your children, for textbooks, for feeding schemes, and to eradicate pit toilet. South Africa, without a budget, there can be no allocation for money for clinics and hospitals, for nurses and doctors, and for critical medication to save lives. Comrades and fellow fighters, without a budget, there can be no salaries for public servants and employees of government, and there can be no funds to fix roads and collapsing infrastructure. Without a budget, there is no possibility to grow the economy and create jobs. We were told by the media and markets that they want the ANC and DA-GNU because this coalition with racists will stabilize the economy and create stability. It has been 3 months now, and this country led by the GNU does not have a budget. This is an illegitimate government. You cannot be a genuine government without a legitimate budget. There is no budget because the Minister of Finance has withdrawn the division of revenue bill and appropriation here today. Ino Godongwan wrote a letter to the media this week